Welcome. We are on Grand Rounds in Urology, the UroEdge portal for advanced practice provider education. I am Diane Newman. I'm a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner, and I've been practicing in urology for the past 35 years. I'm going to give a short overview of urinary retention. Here are our learning objectives for this presentation. We're going to define acute and chronic urinary retention, identify the causes of acute and chronic urinary retention, understand the signs and symptoms, and also classify some treatment options. So what is urinary retention? It's defined as the inability to voluntarily pass an adequate amount of urine. So basically the person cannot urinate and completely empty their bladder. Now, there's causes could be neurogenic disease, such as disruption of the brain, spinal cord, or peripheral nerves that we see with conditions such as MS, stroke, spinal cord injury, or it can be non-neurogenic due to an obstruction in the lower urinary tract. We see this a lot in men with BPH, as it accounts for around 53% of urinary retention that we see. Now, urinary retention can be either acute or chronic in nature. The incidence is higher in men than women, and in men, it increases dramatically with age, ranging from 4.5 to 6.8 per 1,000 person years, increasing to 300 per 1,000 person years for men in their 80s and above. For women, it's only 7 per 100,000 per year. So it's much more significant in men, basically because of their lower urinary tract anatomy. Now, let's first start with acute urinary retention. Now, this is a sudden inability to urinate, again, more common in men. Older men are at higher risk. We see an elevated bladder volume, and patients will complain of low abdominal discomfort. And this is really a medical emergency if that individual cannot void, especially if it's been for a prolonged period of time. So they need immediate and rapid bladder decompression. And we do that with insertion of an indwelling urinary catheter for a short-term period. And following that, we'll do a trial to void to see what type of bladder function they do have. Now, chronic urinary retention is different. It's really an ongoing, gradual inability to urinate. And usually the patient is unaware that this is happening because it takes several months to develop. The bladder is a muscle, so it becomes stretched as it's filling with urine and it's not being emptied. Patients adapt to this condition, and they'll find that they'll have some suprapubic discomfort right in front of that bladder. They'll feel that may be palpable, and they'll strain to try to get that urine out. Severe urinary retention can expand to 2 to 3 liters. That bladder can really expand. And we usually use intermittent catheterization long-term if this is a chronic problem. In urology, we see both acute and chronic urinary retention. There are certain causes of retention. It can be, again, obstructive. Stones in the bladder, bladder cancer can cause it. Fecal impaction, the stool can really actually put pressure on the urethra and the bladder, and you cannot urinate. GI malignancies, strictures in the urethra or any foreign body. In men, of course, enlargement of the prostate, meatal stenosis, paraphimosis, and phimosis. In women, pelvic organ prolapse, depending on the degree of prolapse, can cause retention, or a mass or malignancy in that GU tract. Fibroids can also cause retention in women. So there are some obstructive causes in both men and women. There's also infectious and inflammatory causes, such as cystitis, Guillain-Barré syndrome. Herpes simplex virus can cause retention, as well as Lyme disease. Prostatitis in men can cause retention. And in women, lichen planus can cause it, as well as sclerosis. And some vulvovaginitis can also cause urinary retention in women. As I said before, there are neurologic conditions in the CNS that can lead to urinary retention, stroke, spinal cord disease, peripheral nerve damage, and also neuropathy. But there's also iatrogenic causes, such as trauma that can occur on the lower GU tract, such as the urethra and the bladder neck, pharmacological, and I'll show you a list of medications that can precipitate and cause urinary retention. Men, any type of penile constricting devices or trauma. In women, we see it as a post-operative complication following vaginal surgery and actually even following childbirth. So basically, there are other causes. Now, these are all the medications that's associated with urinary retention. And it's really a lot, antiarrhythmics, anticholinergics, they're selected ones that cause it, antidepressants, SSRIs, antihistamines, certain ones, in the winter months, we tend to see men come in who may have an enlarged prostate, taking an antihistamine for a cold and ends up in the ER with urinary retention. Antiparkinsonian agents, antipsychotics, certain hormones, muscle relaxants, and some pathomimetics can also cause retention. What is the assessment? Well, the initial evaluation, if you suspect urinary retention, is that you want to do a detailed history and really go over those medications and any over-the-counter medications or herbal supplements that can maybe precipitating and causing the retention. You want to do a focused physical examination, neurologic evaluation, as well as to do abdominal examination to look for bladder distension. In chronic retention and even acute, bladder volumes may be over 500 mLs. And again, with chronic retention, it may not be painful, but with acute urinary retention, patient is really usually uncomfortable. But even with chronic, once it gets to a certain volume, it may become uncomfortable. I have many cases where I remember one case that happened in a VA hospital here near Philadelphia, which is where I practice. And actually, the abdomen was so large, was a patient who had some mental health issues, and he hadn't complained. But when the abdomen was so large, they thought he had an abdominal tumor. And when they did the X-ray, they found out that he had a very enlarged over 2-liter bladder of urine was there, and he was not voiding. Diagnostics, we usually do these diagnostics mostly for chronic urinary retention, but you may get a urinalysis, urine culture in all patients. And for acute and chronic, you may see a change in renal function tests, especially you may see an elevated creatinine. Urodynamics is usually scheduled and done for those with chronic urinary retention, and other studies such as renal, bladder, or transrectal ultrasound, cystoscopy, retrograde cystome may be done. So there may be other things that are prescribed for those who have chronic urinary retention. Now, what's the treatment? And really, I'm going to talk about chronic, because for acute, the initial treatment is you've got to decompress the bladder by putting an indwelling catheter. With chronic, they may have an indwelling catheter. We hope for just short term, but usually these patients are taught intermittent catheterization. For a male patient, perhaps prostatic surgery may be warranted. Of course, with female, what's the underlying causes with women? Pelvic organ prolapse, you may need to repair. And also you may, decide that other type of incontinence procedures may be necessary in someone who has maybe incontinence post-stress incontinence surgery. There are also other surgical interventions. Neuromodulation is sometimes used for individuals who have urinary retention. And only a few would go on to urinary diversion. So that's really not something that is very common. Pharmacological interventions are available. Alpha blockers, these actually work on the prostate as well as the bladder neck. They work on the receptors, so they can be used in men and women, and they actually aid with voiding. Also, 5-alpha reductase inhibitors or 5-ARIs are also prescribed in single therapy or monotherapy, multiple therapy combination treatments are also. And there's a nice reference from AHRQ that you can look at as far as it goes over chronic retention. Now, I did mention to you as far as the BPH in men can really lead to retention. And actually, there's an AUA guideline that was updated in 2021 for management of lower urinary tract symptoms for those men who have BPH. And there's 2 recommendations I think they're important that you realize. 5-ARIs alone or in combination with alpha blockers are recommended to reduce the risk of urinary retention. And that had a very strong recommendation with a level A evidence. For patients with LUTS and BPH, irrespective of erectile dysfunction, they're also talking about maybe adding one of the PDE5 inhibitors, 5 milligrams a day to tadalafil, may be a treatment option with level evidence of B. I decided that I wanted to give you some information on alpha blockers because we use this a lot, especially for those who we see in urology. They come in with a catheter, we take because of retention, say post-surgery, and we're going to do a voiding trial. What do? We usually start an alpha blocker. Alpha blockers were prescribed and tested in men, but they also can be used in women. because they actually affect the prostate receptors, the receptors of the alpha receptors in the prostate. They kind of decrease, open up any obstruction that may be there from the prostate, but they also work on receptors in the bladder neck, the base of the bladder. Then that actually helps potentiate their opening of that bladder neck. And I usually use tamsulosin. It reaches a steady state in approximately 5 days, but you can start working 4 to 5 hours. So the half-life of tamsulosin is 14 to 15 hours, or fusosin, which is 5 hours. So I really recommend always to utilize an alpha blocker, and we do that actually whenever anyone who may present with retention. Now, there are some voiding maneuvers, and some of these are somewhat controversial, but they can help people stimulate complete bladder emptying. Especially with a spinal cord injury population, a trigger, so manual rhythmic suprapubic tapping, can produce summation effect on the tension receptors in the bladder wall and activate that reflex arc via afferent discharges. So you want to instruct that patient to do drum the suprapubic area 7 to 8 times. You stop and do it again, and this may trigger, voiding. Also stroking the abdomen or inner thigh, digital anal stimulation is used to trigger voiding. So those are trigger mechanisms. Double voiding is something I recommend for a lot of my patients who may have transient urinary retention or incomplete bladder emptying. And this means voiding twice during each trip to the bathroom to reduce any kind of residual urine volumes. You instruct the patient to urinate, remain on the toilet, or stand up, and attempt to urinate again after a rest period of several minutes. Now, Credé maneuvers are controversial, especially someone maybe with a spinal cord injury. So they may not be safe to use in men with a spinal cord injury. And a Credé maneuver is a mean of direct manual compression of the suprapubic area. So you go downward as far as pressing down to empty, say, a flaccid bladder. The concept here is you want to increase intravesical pressure to facilitate bladder emptying. And this is okay. You may facilitate urination if the sphincter mechanism is not in spasm, and that's a concern with spinal cord injury. So you may want to instruct patients to press firmly with one hand or both hands directly over the suprapubic area. So these may work for certain patients, so you do see them recommended. I want to thank you for listening. This was a short review of urinary retention to give you kind of a quick overview, because I know this is a lot of our patients do come to our offices with retention, and also we see them in hospitals. And here are my references. Please visit Grand Rounds in Urology, the UroEdge portal for advanced practice provider, to learn more about other conditions in urology.